And if we think about it for a while, they are too small to be seen with the microscopes that we have in the lab. And for many years, we didn't have any microscopes that could actually visualize them. But now we do. It's called a transmission electron microscope, and they do a really good job, right? The cause of infections, viral infections, were unknown for a long time because we could never see them. We couldn't grow them on media like bacteria, right? They were intracellular parasites, and they would therefore only be grown inside cells. Right? It was Louis Pasteur who first thought about the idea, because in that time, the physicians who were treating people who, again, it was idiopathic back then. We don't know why, but your lungs are really inflamed, and we don't know why. Well, it was the physicians were calling it things like miasma, or they were calling it bad air, or they were calling it, if they wanted to truly get medical, they called it malagre, which is Latin for bad air, right? But it was Louis Pasteur who came up with the term virus to mean something that was smaller than bacteria that was causing infectious agents. Because he was noticing that somebody would be sick in a room and they'd be coughing, and then other people would get sick that were in that room, right? And that's because the influenza virus is about 110 nanometers in size. So when you sneeze or cough, the heavy stuff's going to follow, but the little light stuff where all the viruses are, it's going to be floating around in here for a while, and then somebody might open the door and the wind comes in and picks it up and takes it back to Harlow. Are you with me? And so if I had influenza, everybody in this room would be exposed to it. Okay? That's important. We consider them to be unfilterable. A filter won't hold them back. They'll go right through because they're so tiny. The smallest filter that we have that's effective is a 0.1 micron, and that takes forever unless you have a vacuum. But most of the viruses will go right through because they're just smaller than that. Okay? Every single thing that's alive on this planet has a viral pathogen that can infect it. We have a lot of them, right? And so it's pretty interesting to think about how these viruses, which to me are much more dangerous than bacteria, they can cause a lot more death, right? So if you think about the major infectious agents that have caused pandemics over the last, I've been through 5 of them since I've been alive, right? And you all don't even notice them because you're not paying attention, but we've had 5 major pandemics, right? Not when I was alive, but the biggest one, of course, was Spanish flu of 1918. I wasn't alive. But that one took 1/3 of the population off the planet, over 60 million people. And that's conservative. People think there's more, right? And then after that, as we got in, then we had things like plague, and then we had, in my lifetime, right, if we think about it, we've had SARS-CoV-1, which didn't really cause that much a problem. We had swine flu, right? Swine flu killed some people, but it infected a lot of people. Then we had tuberculosis, and tuberculosis is still pandemic. We have HIV, which is pandemic still. And then we had COVID. So if you compare COVID to those other guys, it wasn't as bad. I've been predicting a major pandemic for the last 15 years, but the one that I was predicting was not COVID. That was a surprise. It was, people think it's really bad. It was not that bad. Yep.
What would polio be under?
So polio was before my time, but it was also a pandemic.
Well, it's weird because my son, I got, but his childhood vaccines that he just had his 4-year checkup, one of them was the polio vaccine.
For a reason.
Yeah.
The reason that we don't have polio in the United States is because we still give vaccines for it. If we stop giving vaccines, like people aren't taking vaccines for measles, and now we have a big problem with measles. Well, measles is a virus, and measles gets transmitted through the air. So if one kid has it in daycare, all the kids are going to get it. Chickenpox same way.
Even if you're vaccinated?
Yeah, to be vaccinated does not mean that you're not going to get the
It just
infection.
reduces.
It just means that it lessens the duration that you're going to have to deal with it, and it lessens the severity of the infection.
Okay.
Because the goal of vaccines is to keep people out of the hospital. Allow them to live, but keep them out of the hospitals. I guess I'm gonna have to stop there because Rachel's looking nervous, she keeps looking over there. So, why don't we stop there for today, and then we'll take it up on Tuesday. We'll probably finish virology by next, Thursday, and then it'll be time for exam review. Yes, okay. Are you stretching? Did you get